Hello. Howdy. Welcome to the overview of server management in Windows Server 2012. I'm Jeffrey Snover, distinguished engineer, and lead architect for Windows Server. And joining me is superstar Erin.
And I'm Erin Chappell. I'm the partner group program manager in the Windows Server team responsible for the management infrastructure and administrative experience.
And we are just so delighted to tell you about Windows Server 8. It's Windows Server.
You know what? Quarter.
Yeah. So we've been under prohibition from using the name for so long. You'll see us screw up every now and again. So this is a really exciting release, right? So in the past, Windows Server has been a great OS for a server and its features. But here we make a real change with this release. In this release, Windows Server 2012, it's a great OS for lots of servers, and then all the devices that connect those servers, whether they're physical or virtual, whether they're on-premises or off-premises. Okay? Now this is a huge increase in the responsibility of the OS, and we're going to show you today how we accomplish that. So how do we do that with respect to management? And the answer is pretty simple. Three things: standards-based management, robust automation, and the multi-management user experience. So first, let's talk about standards-based management.
All right, so I'm going to jump in here. Today in the ecosystem, we have a bit of a problem or a challenge, we like to think of it. And that is when you look at the number of objects or resources out there that you need to manage, they're ever expanding. Right? If you think about it, you've got to manage the disk, you manage storage, you manage Exchange, you manage different devices. And all of those manufacturers or companies that are producing management for it expose the management surface in a different way. And that makes it really complicated for you, the user, to actually come in and think about how do I manage this environment, right? The different tools that are built on top of it need to understand 4, 5, 6, 10 different ways to interact with the different resources depending upon the vendor, where it's coming from, et cetera. And it creates this N by M problem, we call it, right? There's just so many different ways and things that you need to learn. It becomes really tricky. And so maybe we should switch. Why don't we switch sides? Okay. And so what our approach to this is to create a layer of abstraction in between. I don't know if I'm reverberating off of you. Sorry. There we go.
There you go.
Is that better? Can you hear me? All right, perfect. So what we've done in this release is we've extended the work we've been doing around the Windows management framework. And this is our layer of abstraction. It's a common way in which vendors can provide artifacts that we know how to manage, that then we can expose to the tools. Those tools, whether they be IT Pro type tools like Server Manager we have in Box, or whether or not they be System Center tools, whether or not they be the IT developer or the IT that's building solutions on top of it, or solutions developers who are integrating these. So it creates a much more consistent way in which you think about how you manage your environment. Now, we could do this in one of two ways. We could choose to do this in a proprietary way, which wouldn't solve the problem at all, because we wouldn't incite the ecosystem to actually build to this Windows management framework, or we could do it in a standards-based way, and that's what we've done. The Windows management framework is built up of sort of 3 layers. One, a standard set of models, which people can describe the instrumentation or their system in, and that's based upon SIM, the Common Information Model. We then have a standard protocol, which is the way in which you access the machine. We use WSMem, but we're also extending in this release to provide REST-based interfaces so that developers can easily build tools over top of the Windows management framework. And then we expose these in a standard API set. And that's where things like PowerShell come into play, but also OData, which is a way in which you can access through REST the underlying instrumentation that we have in the system. And what we think this does is it really incites sort of this virtuous circle, because as we have a set of people who, consumers, who are interested in these common artifacts, that entices the ecosystem to create them. And as more artifacts get created in the ecosystem, then it fuels more tools being created, and the whole thing just builds on top of each other. And with this release, with what you'll see that Jeffrey will talk to a little bit later, of just the number of commandlets that we've created, the number of new WMI providers that we have, we really think that we're jump-starting this ecosystem, and that this will help over time kind of organize the world of management.
And you might have been here in previous years and seen similar drawings, okay? And indeed, we have been working at this for a while, but as we had changed our identity to a cloud OS, needing to do this, the importance of this just skyrocketed. And so you'll see in this release, it was one of our major investments for the entire OS. Not just the infrastructure, but the coverage, the ability to plug things into it, and the tools that consume it. So big increase in this release. You're going to like it.
So let's talk about some of the specifics of what is new that you'll see in Windows Server 2012. First, we've made WSMan the default protocol for management. Right? In previous releases, PowerShell's layered its remoting on top of WS management, but not all of our tools have been built layered on top of PowerShell, which means that you have to really manage the ports that you have open on your machine. You don't have a common way to access your servers. In this release, all of the new tools that we've created and all of the PowerShell coverage goes through WSMan. It's the default protocol, and remoting is actually enabled by default on all servers, so you don't have to go through that step of configuring it out of the box. We've also allowed Windows clients to manage non-Windows clients through our adoption of SIM and the creation of a set of SIM commandlets, which I think Jeffrey's going to demo in a second, so I won't talk as much about that. And overall, we've really simplified and lowered the cost of participating in this ecosystem.
We skipped over one.
Oh, yeah. We also have the ability for non-Windows devices to manage Windows through our use of WS management and the adoption of SIM and being compliant now with the SIM standard in the ecosystem.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I had a thrill to be able to demo this to a group of people where we showed a Linux machine installing Windows Server roles. A Linux machine doing that. And it was all through standards-based management. So this is not your father's Windows Server. This is a new thing.
We've also simplified and lowered the cost of participating in the ecosystem. I don't know how many in the room have had the displeasure of writing a WMI provider in the past, but it's quite a complicated feat. This time around, we've really dramatically simplified the provider experience. And then once you actually create a WMI provider, we've provided a very easy way for you to then expose it through PowerShell and get all the rich semantics of the PowerShell experience. So again, we're looking at layering these things and providing a consistent experience. And then, as I mentioned a little earlier, we've actually created a REST OData interface to actually be able to access PowerShell and the commandlet. So it makes it very easy to build and develop solutions that leverage the Windows Management Framework and all of the inbox providers that we have. Lastly, well, not second to last, we expose all of this through the Windows Management Framework. 3.0 is the official version. And we know that in your environments, you don't just have Windows Server 2012 machines or Windows 8 client machines. And so we provide that Windows Management Framework down level through an out-of-band release. And it will install on Windows 7 machines as well as Windows Server 2008 and Windows Server 2008 R2 machines. And there actually is, if you're not ready to go, thank you. If you're not ready to go and adopt or try out Windows Server 2012 right now, this Windows Management Framework 3.0 is also in a beta version, and you can go download that and install it in your existing environment, and it's a quick and easy way to get access to a lot of the functionality that we're going to show you today. So lastly, another big thrust for us in this release is just around storage management all up. And in the industry, SMIS is the standards-based way to access and manage storage. Yesterday in the keynote, you saw this demo through VMM, but in Windows Server 2008-2012, we have an SMIS service in the box that allows you to discover storage devices, bring them in, and then they're exposed in a consistent way through the storage management UI, just like you would manage storage spaces in your local storage, which I'll demo a little bit later. So big release for us in terms of just pulling this stuff together into a consistent layer, the Windows Management Framework, cooperating with our partners in the industry around standards and making sure that we can be managed and manage other devices in a standards-based way. So with that, Jeffrey, why don't you show us some of the great investments we've done in the SIM commandlets.
Excellent. So here what I'm showing you is the new PowerShell ISE, the integrated scripting environment. We'll come back to that and I'll show you a lot of the details of that. But for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus in on these sim commandlets. Okay, so we have a new get command. By the way, you might notice the IntelliSense. More on that later. Module, sim commandlets, wildcards. And here are all the new sim classes. So in the past you had WMI classes. WMI is an implementation of sim, but it wasn't up to the full standards of sim. And so in this release we brought it up to the full standards, and there are some slight semantic differences between WMI and the standards. So now we have the sim commandlets which implement the standard. Now the nice thing about that is they'll work against Windows machines or against any OS or hardware device that supports sim. Good stuff. So the nice thing about this is that it supports discoverability. A lot of people have said, hey, they love WMI, but find it difficult to find the information that they need. We now make that easier. Here we do get sim class, and you ask for a class name, and we'll say anything with a disk in it. And you find those things. Yeah, that's great. But now look at this. Dash. Here are some other options. Method name. So I'll find all the classes that have a method name that term something. And you see Win32 process has terminate. You can also do get sim class minus property handle. And you find all the classes that have a handle property. So these mechanisms make it very easy to go find the information, the classes that you're looking for. Okay? Now, we also have a new API to access things and a new representation of the objects. So here what I'm going to do is to execute this, and I get the processes. So $X is a Win32 process. Okay? But if I ask for the sim, every sim object has a reference back to its metadata. So that allows you to explore what it is that you can do with that object. So no more of this like, well, I have something, but how do I find out what it can do? You ask for the sim class, and it shows you everything about that object. So you can get the sim class methods. You see, oh, you can create things, terminate things, get owner, etc. You can get all the properties. Yeah? So all the information right there, and we've made it so that there's a nice, that's on X, a nice two-string. So when you have this object and you want to see what it is, we have a nice way to represent it. We basically take the sim caption data and use that. So here, I'll get the rest of the processes, and I'll show you one of the new great PowerShell v3 features, two-string. And you see, it's very easy to take the sim object, which in the past was maybe a little bit opaque, a little bit techy, and now it's very easy to read and use. Now we also have multi-machine capabilities. So here I can get the sim instance from a class name and then just specify as many machines as I want to go get that information. Yeah? If you want, you can also do things. So that created an instance and disconnected. Alternatively, what I can do is I can create a sim session. A sim session is useful for when I'm going to connect to a machine and then issue multiple requests to that, because then I don't have to reconnect all the time, so it makes it a whole lot faster. So I'll go ahead and create a connection, 3 connections. Show you this. And notice they're WSMan connections. Again, Aaron mentioned WSMan, our standards-based protocol, is now the default protocol we use for everything. And when I do that same operation, it'll now happen a lot faster. Now, lastly, what I want to show you is that DCOM has not gone away. DCOM, we continue to support it for compatibility reasons, and that's also available through the new API. So we have something called a session option, and here you can specify a DCOM protocol. So we'll do that using that sim session as part of this. And notice when I show you the session, now it shows you a DCOM protocol. And when I do the get sim instance, it's just going to work the same. So existing mechanisms, DCOM, new mechanisms, WSMan, work exactly the same way. The new benefit of the SIM is that you can reach out and talk to the standards-based heterogeneous machines, Linux machines, raw hardware, etc. The last thing I want to show you is the capability of how you might want to use this using some of the new workflow capabilities of PowerShell v3. PowerShell v3 has in the past you could write a function and give it a name, and now you can write a workflow. And so here we specify classes, and we specify a set of classes that we want to get, and then check this out. For each parallel $C in classes, get the SIM instances. And so what that means is it will now go and invoke this get SIM instance in parallel for each one of those classes. Okay, so this is very useful. Sometimes a particular query can take a long time, and so now what you can do is you can have multiple queries going on at the same time with a very simple syntax. So standards-based management, there's a lot to it. Go pick up the latest version, experiment, have some fun with it.
Great, thanks, Jeffrey. Your clapping is loud. Clapping is loud.
When you use it, that's when you're going to clap.
All right, so let's move into the second main pillar that we had of this release, which is around robust automation. So we've been on a journey over the last several releases with our introduction of PowerShell and what we've been doing to expand the abilities and the capabilities in Box around automation. And in this release, when we were starting, we took a step back and really thought about, well, where is the world today? How has the world changed from when we first envisioned PowerShell and thought about the investment in automation? And we really see an increasing need that has, I would say, in the last several years, probably kind of increased on a more exponential path than we had seen in the past. And that really is based around the fact that we live in a messy world. The world has been messy, it is messy, it will continue to be messy, and I don't think it's about trying to make it not be messy, it's about acknowledging that that's the world in which we live in and thinking about how can we provide tooling that helps you manage that inherent messiness that we live in. You know, there's a lack of consistency across existing systems out there. If you think about the reliability, especially as we think about the move to the cloud and the just increase in scale that we have, that's a challenge. And then as we see new things coming into being created and being adopted in environments, you have kind of this proliferation of older machines plus new machines, and that introduces sort of a challenge within the environment.
Well, just to clarify one thing you said when you go to the cloud, you have issues of robustness. The cloud's robust, don't get that wrong, but the issue is with scale.
Yeah.
The cloud brings about scale. These new environments is scale, and when you have more than one thing, things break.
Something's gonna fail.
Something goes down, the connection between them go down, etc. So there's nothing intrinsically less reliable about the cloud.
It's more the scale of the number of machines that you're
Exactly.
dealing with. The other thing that we realize is that different companies want to do things in different ways. And so rather than provide a one-fits-all type solution, by providing increased capabilities in the platform around how you can automate, then it provides the ability for organizations to tailor and create their own solutions that meet the needs that they have in their environment. And then lastly, there's this idea of ad hoc management. We know that there are formal ways in which that you're going to want to manage your environment, but when something fails or when something breaks, you want to actually be able to come in and do some ad hoc management, manage the unexpected, perform those one-off tasks. And so this has really set up an environment where we think the bet that we've made in PowerShell becomes even more increasingly important over time. So let's just do a little kind of recap of where we left off. We introduced PowerShell v1 in Windows Server 2008. That was really a focus on a core set of commandlets that we provided in the box and access to the underlying WMI objects. We did have extensibility mechanisms for you to create your own commandlets through PS snap-ins. But it was really sort of our first foray into this world of automation. With Windows Server 2008 R2, this got much better. The improvements we made in PowerShell v2 around remoting and around really thinking about how do you run long-running or run tasks in a fan-out scenario, so in a one-to-many scenario or a many-to-one scenario to support kind of multi-tenancy and whatnot, has been really well received. We switched to be more focused on modules and providing an extensibility through creating your own modules as well as creating PowerShell scripts. And we created or introduced the integrated scripting environment, which you saw Jeffrey working in his last demo, to try and provide an onboarding tool for how people could get to use and become familiar with the command line language. Well, we've just kind of kicked the dial up incredibly in this next release. I actually think there's a drill down session tomorrow on advanced automation where we'll see some of the V3 features in it, but we just have so much that we've added in this new release around PowerShell, and it really has centered around 4 main themes. The first is we've heard that PowerShell can be a little daunting. When you look at it for the first time. For people who are more familiar working through the GUI, there really is a learning curve to understand PowerShell and the environment and the sort of philosophy behind it. We've made an incredible amount of investments, which Jeffrey will show you in just a second, around just reducing that step curve of learning PowerShell and making it really easy and approachable to start using in your environment. The second main investment was really around coverage. Right? Automation is only as good as the coverage you have. If you want to automate a scenario end-to-end and you get halfway through and the one thing that you need to do isn't actually available through PowerShell, you're kind of out of luck. Well, in this next release, we've gone from 230 commandlets in box to over 2,000, which really, things like the whole networking layer, the file system layer, those are all accessible now through PowerShell. And then lastly to deal, or not second to last, to deal with the messy world, we really invested in a set of features that deal with that kind of failure that you're going to have in your environment. So robust connections, the ability to connect and disconnect from a session and reconnect to it. The ability to schedule jobs, as Jeffrey started to show, workflow. The ability to actually leverage the workflow concepts within the scripting environment to create workflows that persist across reboots and deal with interruptions that you have in your environment. And then lastly, we always like to make V3, the next version, better than the previous version, and so V3 is a better V2. For those of you who don't know, we have a fabulous site, connect.microsoft.com/PowerShell, and that is a place where you can go file bugs, you can provide suggestions. We've fixed over 150 of the suggestions we've got from the community in this release. We've simplified a lot of things, and we've kind of fixed those new little the things that annoy people that we really wouldn't have gotten feedback until we got it out in production.
Yeah, we sanded out the burrs in the experience. How's that?
So, and then lastly, there are a ton of new features in PowerShell. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there are just a ton of new features. And so, at the booth, it's been great. Several folks have stopped by who've been playing with V3 a bit, and I think the initial feedback that we're getting is that people really are appreciating the diligence we put into really, providing a seamless experience through the automation layer. So with that, I'm going to stop talking, and we're going to have Jeffrey demo some of the new things that we have in PowerShell V3.
Great. So as Aaron mentioned, coverage was one of our major themes. We like to say that with PowerShell, we want to create a world where you think about what you want to do, you type it, and you get it. That's our goal. Okay. So in the past, there were 230 things you could think, type, and get. And now we have some people say, somebody did a recent count, and I think they said there was 2,430 commandlets in Windows Server 8. The number will vary based upon the things that you install, obviously. So they went and got a machine and installed everything and counted it up. So that's 2,430 things that you'll be able to think, type, and just get. So coverage is a major factor. So let's take a look at some of those things. The way you find that out is, well, there's a couple things. There's get module minus list. And this one always takes a bit of time the first time. Or, by the way, here we have a show command, this new module over here, and it's showing you all the commands that are there. Look at these. Big list. Okay, so these modules are then broken down by sets of features, right? So it's app locker, BitLocker, branch cache, DNS, iSCSI, network adapter, LBFO, NIC teaming, QoS, TCP, PCI, just a ton of stuff. And this is just the stuff on my, I guess I got a client box here. You go install roles on the server, you'll see a ton more. So on this machine, let's see, get command, pipe to measure. So on this machine, I got 992. You know, just big increase in stuff, really nice. But in addition to that, again, it's about simplicity. Again, we want to move to a world where you think about what you want, you type it, and you get it. So if you wanted to create a new share in the past, what would you have to do? Well, this was how you used to have to do it in VB script. Okay? So, you know, I don't think many people were thinking, this is what I want to do, and typing and getting that. Okay? So then, in the previous version, in Windows 7, this is how you had to do it. Okay? So we had WMI, so Win32 share. Basically, the previous thing was a WMI script as well. But this was a whole lot easier, right? So 20 lines versus, you know, 85. So, you know, 4 times better. But still, this is not the sort of thing somebody's just going to think, type, and get. So, I mean, how would you do it, right? What would you think? You would want to say, I'd like a new SMB share, oh yeah, whose name is test. Oh, what happened there? Sorry, new SMB, whose name is test, whose path is C:temp. Yeah, think, type, get, and voila, you get it. Not sure you got it? Get SMB share. Hey, I want all of them, or I just want test, or the one whose name is test. Okay, so this is an example where the coverage dramatically simplifies things for you, moving to this think, type, get world. Okay? Okay, next is we've simplified the language quite a bit. Okay, so if you've ever been to by the way, how many people use PowerShell today? This will help me. Oh, excellent. Okay, so everybody who's used PowerShell or has seen a PowerShell demo has certainly seen this. Get process, pipe to where handles greater than 900. Yeah? Okay, so yay, great. Everybody who raised your hand, I assume, has figured out, has become comfortable with this. Most of you looked at this the first time and said, huh? And we banked on the fact that said, yeah, you know, most people are going to be able to figure it out. And by and large, that's true. But there's a group of people that when they first see a squiggle bracket, like show me a squiggle bracket 3 days from now, but on day number 1, when I see a squiggle bracket and a $sign and an underbar and a dot, like I'm just freaking out. Like, this is not for me. I want to go back to my GUI. Give me my mouse. Oops, sorry. Give me my mouse. And we thought, okay, there's no reason for that. For simplified tasks, we can simplify the syntax, and that's what we've done. So whack, get rid of the squiggle bracket, get rid of the period, etc. So now you can just say where handles greater than 900, and voila, it continues to work. Hey, yeah. Don't you wish you had that while you were learning? So now, get process. Let's do this. Oh, GPS. There you go. Star assess. You used to have to do, let's just say I wanted to get the name of each one of these things. I don't want a table, but I just want to get one of the names. So what you used to have to do was this, $.name. You know, so squiggle brackets again, okay? And again, we went and we simplified the for each. So if you just want a property, you just specify the property, and we get that, okay? So really quite nice. Now, additionally, let's start a couple processes here. You can do get process calc, and you can say for each, and you can invoke methods like toString, okay, or things like kill. So notice down here as I hit kill, and they go away. Okay, so very simplified syntax for performing operations. There's a number of other areas where we've simplified the syntax, but these are the 2 ones that you're going to use quite a bit. Now, we have the new integrated scripting environment. This thing is a honey. So check this out. Oops, where we go? Notice the line. And so now we have collapsible regions in the ISE. Woo! We have, people have asked for, yeah, you like that. I'll tell you, it's very, very useful when your scripts get a bit large or you have some portion that's just a bunch of gnarly setup stuff and you want to hide that to look at the meat of the language or meat of the code. It's very nice. You can put your cursor in a command and just hit F1 to get help. Yeah? The help is searchable. Okay, so then you can find, it highlights text up here. Okay? Additionally, this thing I mentioned over here, show command. Remember what was the command we looked at earlier? Sim session. Sim session. And it shows you those sim sessions. And remember I mentioned that there was session options. Well, geez, what are the things I could have done in session options? Options, that sounds pretty rich. Well, new sim session option. Here, show the details. And look, it gives you the parameter sets. So I could have specified a protocol, a DCOM or WSMAN. And if I'd done WSMAN, look at all the things you can do. You can specify the culture, the encoding, authentication, proxy authentications, etc. So you can do all that great stuff. Now, in addition to that, you can select a command, or sorry, put your cursor in a command, and up here, invoke show command. Ta-da. And it'll just show there. So very nice stuff. Alternatively, you can do it from the command line. You can say show command, and it brings you this, okay? Or you can say show command, and then give it a command. Oh, here, we'll give it this one. Okay, so you all have seen get process, right? And here, if I do star SS, I get those processes. Yeah, I've seen that before, but sorry. But have you ever noticed this? LSASS. Did you ever notice module or file version info? So check this out. File version info. Run it. It gives you the file version information about that process. Or module shows you all the modules, all the DLLs that are being used by that. So the nice thing about this, right, is through IntelliSense, through the ISE, through show command, it becomes really quite fun and easy and simple to explore the system, explore the capabilities, and improve your skills in managing things. Now, we've got IntelliSense in this version. Now, you've seen some of the IntelliSense. By the way, can you see this in the back of the room? If not, we have this amazing thing with IntelliSense where I can say, and it gets bigger. So that's nice. Tell me if you have a problem with this. I think you can see that. So you've seen IntelliSense here, right, with the command completion. So that's great, super, super useful. But check this out. $P equals dir. Now, notice that I have not run this, right? $P is not defined. Right? $P, no such thing. But now if I'm writing a script, I'm authoring a script, right? I run some code, $P dot, and notice it has the attributes. It has the attributes. So how did it do that? And the answer is, in PowerShell version 3, we now support something called the DLR. The DLR is a dynamic language runtime. What's all that about? And the answer is this. We basically have shifted from sort of an informal scripting language to a much more formal language. In fact, what we do is we watch your scripts as they're running, and we will do on-the-fly compilations of your script to accelerate their execution. So it gets a lot faster. Now, one of the side benefits of adopting this approach and this technology is we have a formal, what's called AST, Abstract Syntax Tree. And what this allows us to do, allows us and the community of developer tool vendors, is to use PowerShell to develop this new class of tools, printers, lexical analyzers, lint tools, etc. And one of the tools is this IntelliSense. So it knew, it looked at the program, was able to reason against that program, and realized that this variable p was the output of a dir command, and dir creates file info objects, so it shows you the properties of that file info object. Pretty impressive feat, I'll tell you. It's pretty cool. But wait. It gets better. So notice its attributes, base name, creation time, etc. So these are the attributes of a file info. But remember, dir, right? So you guys have no PowerShell know that, hey, well, directories are only part of the deal, right? If I could do a PS drive, look, we have HKLM and we have cert, so you could do directories of those. So let's imagine I did that. Imagine I did a directory of HKLM, software, Microsoft, okay? Well, then when I go here, notice subkey count, value count. This stuff's magic. And the same thing with the cert drive. So it knows where it is that you're going to go, knows what objects are going to be created, and does IntelliSense on those. So just wonderful stuff. Now you'll find as you explore, there's oh, I'm missing this or it's missing that. Well, guess what? We made it extensible so that you can extend it yourself. So, or the community can extend it. There's a little bit chewy code to write for yourself, but the community can extend it and use it, and just wonderful stuff. Okay, a lot of you have asked for block select, small feature, but if you need it, you like it. So that's Shift, Alt, Shift. Yeah, and you have block select, copy, paste. Yeah? We have snippets. So as you're writing your code, again, one of the tricks with trying to simplify things is you're trying to move from a world of I want to think, I want to type, and I want to get. And I think we did a pretty good job with that on the commands, right, through command coverage. But then what happens when I want to script something? Like I want to think about something, and now we have Control J, and these are the snippets. It says, oh, hey, I'd like to do a do-while loop. And we go and we fill in the syntax for you. So you remember, oh, well, how do I do the syntax for this or that? Well, do-while is not that complicated, but I'll tell you what, even myself, I always end up looking up the syntax for a switch statement. So now we can go in here, find the switch statement. Oh, there you go. That's right. That's how you do it. And so now, let's try that again. Okay, and so then we plunk that in, and you can go in and fill it out yourself. Now this is an extensible mechanism, so you can add your own, or again, the community can produce these and provide them. So snippets, very useful for being able to write scripts. It simplifies the tasks of writing scripts. Now in the past, I'm going to switch over and show you something in version 2. I guarantee everybody in PowerShell who's learned PowerShell came across and said, huh, why'd you do that? And everybody who hasn't would until you use version 3. So here, okay. Here's a function that says I want to get the ID. I'm going to take in a name, and I'm going to do get process minus name, assign it to a value, and then I'm going to return the ID here, right? So if I say of the first element, so if I say get ID minus name star, that'll get everything. It goes, finds everything, and gets the first ID, okay, 15. But what happens if I do this, LSASS? And the answer is, oh, you can't index into a singleton. So you then say, okay, well, great. That's how you do that. Execute that. And I do it again. And that works great, yeah? Except then when I do this, it fails. Okay? So this was, we had this seam between singletons, single values, and arrays. And so typically if you're scripting, the way you'd have to do this is you'd always cast this thing into an array. you'd always cast it into an array, and that's how you do it as an array, and then always index it. Okay, and so then that then works. Okay, so then if I do this, it works, and if I do that, it works. Yeah, everybody, y'all had that problem before? Well, now you don't have to do that anymore. So now, same function. Notice I'm not using the array. And so when I say get ID minus name, LSASS, well, this is going to work, right? Because it's a singleton. So that's going to work, yeah. But what happens if I do this? Star. And the answer is it returns all of them. Okay? So now a dot operator applied to a collection grabs that value against each one of the collections. So basically it eliminates the need for a for each or a for loop in a lot of circumstances. Alternatively, you could have come in here and you said, well, hey, I want to do this. Sorry. And the answer is, if you do this, it just works. And if you do this, it just works. Okay? So we've fixed this seam between singletons and arrays. And you go experiment with it. You're going to love it. Trust me. Okay. Last thing I want to highlight here is the Script Explorer. A lot of ways people admins get things done is not starting from scratch, but rather going out there and saying, hey, has somebody done something like what I would like to do? And so now we have a downloadable tool called the Script Explorer. You download it, and it extends PowerShell ISE. Okay? And what you can do, it's a search engine for scripts. Okay? So you can search for scripts, snippets, how-to guidance, modules. You can find out where you'd like to do it. You want to do the community, or you want to set up a local site and only do that. You can browse categories, Active Directory, databases, desktop management, or you can do search. Let's just say Hyper-V. You say, okay, well, create a VM. That looks interesting. And then, here, create a new. I can take a look at it, see there's recommendations here, find out about it. I have the code, and if I want to, I just insert it, accept the fact that it's telling me that you might die if you accept this code, so you want to be careful. Right? You always want to take a look at the code, but it inserted it directly into the ISE. At this point, I can examine the code, and if I like it, accept it, or modify it to meet my purposes. So now we've got the Script Explorer to make it easy to go out and leverage the community to help get your job done. So you see, whether it's the syntax, whether it's the coverage, whether it's the tools, whether it's our connection between you and the community, we've worked very hard to simplify the task of automating Windows. Great, so now let's talk about the multi-machine management experience. I mentioned to you earlier that we're shifting focus from managing a server to managing everything required for a cloud. Lots of machines, the storage devices, the networking, etc. Okay, so first and foremost, a lot of people, I just talked to you a lot about automation and command lines, and I've had a number of people come up to the booth and say, why are you taking away the GUI from us? Why are you forcing us to learn PowerShell? And that's exactly incorrect. That we're not taking away the GUI. Good heavens, no. We have big increase in our investment in the GUI. But it's not an or situation, command line or the GUI. It's an and situation. We have a GUI and we have the command line. And boy, have we made some investments in the GUI in this environment. We now have a new multi-machine management server manager tool. This has got a new, fresh view of it. Gone is the old information architecture and model that was designed back when we were listening to programming while we were listening to music on our 8-track players. You know, it's got a modern, fresh feel to it. It's designed around giving you the information that helps you manage your attention. So instead of saying, well, some critical information is buried down in the interface somewhere, I've got to go find it. No, no, no. we know what things require your attention, and we will cascade that up and make it available and clearly visible to you so you can manage things. We call this a glanceable interface. You can quickly glance at your screen to see if there's anything that requires your attention or whether you can go do something else. We want to make it relevant and actionable. So when you see something that requires your attention, you can act upon it right there. Not, oh, something requires my attention, go do a scavenger hunt to go find the tool necessary to perform the action. Now, remoting is on by default, and remoting is the default experience for the GUI. Okay? That's either from the client, so you see the GUI that we're going to show you. It can run on the server, but our preferred configuration is that you run it on the client, and then you do remote management of the servers, or from a browser. Aaron's going to show you a demonstration of a bunch of PowerShell being accessed through any browser window. And consistency is critical. Look, we know your hair's on fire. We know you have a very tough job, and we are giving you a ton of great new features. And we just know that if we give those features to you in a way that's not coordinated, that's not consistent, then that's going to require a lot of learning and training on your part and a lot of things that you have to remember. And so we invested to make sure that when we expose this new functionality to you, we expose it in a very consistent way. Consistent so that you can learn it once and then apply it over and over again. So there's a consistency between the GUI and the command line. Everything that Aaron's going to show you through the gorgeous GUI, you can also perform via PowerShell. There's consistency between workloads, between the file server. The way you do things in the file server is the same way that you do them in IIS, the same way you do them in RDS. And consistency between configurations. Whether I'm installing a role on a server core box or a full server box, or installing a role into a VHD. We have a consistent experience for that. So we know that IT pros need solutions that are going to manage across these multiple technologies and span multiple servers. That's what our mission was. And we want to be able to give you aggregation and drill down, right? The ability to say, hey, I got lots of pieces there, aggregate those in a way that's meaningful so I can understand what it is, and then when I need to, let me drill into the details. So don't hide the details from me, but abstract the details so I can know when it is I need to drill in. And then when I want to drill in, I want to drill in based upon a particular technology. Oh, show me everything about file servers, or show me everything about IIS servers, or drill in on a specific server. There's some server going on, show me everything about that server. So each of these is important in what we designed there. And with that, I'm going to let Aaron wow you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jeffrey. So this should come up in a second. This is the new default view when you open up the server manager for the first time. So just before I get into the details, as Jeffrey said, we really wanted to look at the overall user experience and bring something into this release that was fresh, that really looked at how we embrace the Metro-style principles that are appearing across the client and mobile and Xbox, and bring that into the server space. But we also wanted it to be familiar. We wanted it to be something that was approachable to the IT pros that were familiar with our server experience in the past. And so this is the design that we've come up with. Very principled approach. We really looked and stepped back at who we were designing this for. We really target this at an IT professional who's probably managing 25 to 30 servers. Those could be the entire organization, or those could be a section of the organization that they're working in. And we've provided the ability, as Jeffrey said, for this to be very customizable into your environment. So let me walk you through a few things. First of all, the first initial view should be very glanceable. Right? So I come in here, I have Server Manager come, I've got a welcome screen, a little quick start to help me go. I'm actually going to hide that because I'm going to walk you through most of the things that are on that. But as you can see, my attention is probably drawn to this initial dashboard view, to the file server or the print services, because they've got some services that look like there's some challenges with it. So very glanceable, it directs my attention to where I need to be. You probably also see there's a little kind of icon up here by the tasks, If I click down, those are notifications. They tell me, hey, I was actually deploying a set of services. The role was deployed, but you're not finished. You need to go back and do some post-deployment configuration. So I have, say, DHCP installed on server 4. I can click that. It's going to launch me back into the wizard, back into that guided experience to finish what I need to do to get my server configured. So really helping you when you come in and initially look at this, know where you need to direct your attention and guide you through that end-to-end scenario that you're performing. So the second principle around our design is really for it to be actionable, right? I don't want to have to navigate and do 4 clicks to do what I could do in 1. So for example, here within the dashboard, I again saw that the services drew my attention to print services. All right, so let's click on those services. I can see, well, you know, the print spooler stopped on my demo 2 and my demo 6 machines. So rather than take you to some UI within the print server, we want to make sure that you can do that right in line and that you can actually do it across multiple machines. So here within the UI, I can right-click, start those services, and it's going to go kick off that task across those machines. I very easily, within 1 click, resolve my problem. I'm going to go back, click, all right, yeah, now I'm in a good state. Now we've allowed you to customize all of these things. I don't have any problems, say, with my events, but if I clicked on events, I could go through there and I could actually scope and only look at a certain ID. So we know that there are probably some things that come up in your environment that you know that you don't need to deal with, and we can help you customize that dashboard so that you're not getting a bunch of extraneous alerts that you don't want to have. So the next thing is really about relevance, right? We want to present the information to you that you need. You can see that this homepage is grouped by role, but if I scroll down, I also have an all servers tile that really shows me what's happening across all of my servers. The information in each tile is specific to the role. The information across all servers is specific to all servers. If I drill in, let's say I go into that print services because we were working with it, you can see, all right, print is installed across 4 sets of machines. I can see the specific events, the services that are in. I can multi-select. Right? So as I multi-select, what's happening below gets scoped to those machines. So really starting to help you troubleshooting and narrowing down issues that might be happening in your environment by drilling down on a role-specific information.
And when you do that in this environment, you're in print servers, you see only the services related to that and only the events related to that. And so if you select one of the servers, you see just the services for it, just the events for it. If you pick 2, you see for both of them. If you select all, you see all of them. And then there's rich, I'm stealing all your thunder. It's just too exciting.
Jeffrey's too excited about it. Let's pivot. You know, this is the role view of it. Let's go back and pivot on the all servers view. So here you can see, you know, as Jeffrey was saying, if I multi-select all the servers on this page, I can see all the events that are coming from across those servers. I can scroll down. I can see the services that are running. And we provide this rich ability to do filtering within this UI. So for me, in my environment, I know that when I look at that all servers view, what I'm really interested in is Hyper-V. That's running across those servers. So if I've actually, within the services view, typed in Hyper in my little filter box, it then filters it to just the services that are related or have Hyper in the name. And so I can quickly look at those. And again, down here, if I go down and look at the roles and features installed, you know, we'll talk about this a little later, but there are different deployment options that are available within this release around whether or not you choose to do server core or server with a GUI or this new thing we call minimal server interface. And so in here, I really was interested in understanding what's running on each of those machines. And so I've actually created this little saved query that only lists or searches on the user interface features. So you can really tailor this to your environment and make it work for what it is that you're responsible for monitoring or looking at, or the set of servers that you're responsible for. One last thing that I'll just show you before I start to go into some of the tasks that we exposed in Server Manager is that I can actually customize this dashboard view. So we start with a tile for each role and a tile for all servers. But let's say that I know that server 2 and server 4 come from a particularly challenging owner within my organization. And so I really want to make sure that I am on top of those 2 machines. I can go in, I can give it a name, we'll just call it test group for now. Click OK. And then you'll see on my dashboard that that test group shows up. So, if you could imagine, for example, if you had a couple of servers that were in a remote location, a couple that were on site with you, and you wanted to have different groups to pivot on how you looked at those, that you could customize it for your environment in that way. So again, glanceable, helping direct you to what you need to do, action-oriented, so you can take action right in line, and then customizing it for your environment. Now, we've worked with several partners in this release to really redo their user experience and bring them in line within Server Manager to provide you a rich experience for managing the remote desktop services, the IP address management, and then storage management. And I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about what we've done in the storage management area. So you saw Jeff on stage at the keynote yesterday was talking about some of the improvements we've made in storage. We really wanted to provide a unified experience this release around storage, whether or not it be local or network, and provide this consistent experience. And so on every server that ships out of the box, we have a default set of functionality called Spaces that is installed. And that allows me to pool the disks that I have attached to my server and offer them up on the network in a resilient way. And so here, as I go in and look at the files and storage services space, you can see that I have the 5 servers in my environment. I can go in and I can look at the pools that are there, and here I haven't created any pools. I'm going to walk you through what we would view as being more of a task-based or a guided experience. So here, if I right-click on the primordial pool, I can create a new storage pool. I get a handy wizard, lets me walk through. I'll give it a name, just test pool. It's on the server. I can pick the disks that are attached to that machine that I want to create the pool with and click Create. And then when I'm done, it'll give me a success message. But I've created the pool, but it's really not useful to me unless I go through an additional set of steps. Right? I need to create a virtual disk associated with it, then I need to sign a drive letter, then I need to actually create some shares on it. So here you can see we're guiding the user through what the next step is. So I can click on this. I'll create a virtual disk when this closes, and it links me into that next experience. So here I can go through. I can, it was demo 3. The test pool is what I want to select. We'll have a test disk. Click Next. I can choose the layout I want. I can choose provisioning. One of my new favorite features is this thin provisioning. So I can go through, and thin provisioning allows me to actually provision the disk greater than the physical space that I have, but only what's needed by the applications will be used. So here I have only 600 gigabytes free, but I'm going to actually create my disk to be 1,000. I'll click Next, click Create, and there again you can see. I'm not going to go through, but it'll keep linking me through what I need to do. So if I actually, I don't want to create a volume when this wizard closes, I'll click Close. You can see there's my test pool. I've got a set of virtual disks. I now have in one view all of the things related to storage. I can do things like pivot, so from the storage pools I can go to the disks overviews. It switches in context. So really helping me create a connected experience that is tailored around the task that I'm trying to perform. Now I know, Jeffrey, you were having a problem, weren't you, earlier?
Yeah, I tried to save my expense report on the share and it wouldn't let me do that.
All right, well, the server that you were trying to save it to, I don't typically manage, so it's not in my view, but let me go through and find it. So I think it's on server 5. All right, I'm going to add in that. And as you can see, my UI is going to go out. It's going to discover the environment. And I now, because there are shares on that, I have some additional capabilities in the UI. So I'm going to click on, well, by any chance, are you trying to save it to the current accounts folder?
Yep.
I think you are, right?
Yep.
Well, we got a quota issue. How big's the file?
Pretty small.
All right, so that's not it. But right from here, I can click. Let's see if you have permission. So let's go into Properties, Permissions. Okay, there you are, Jeffrey. You only have read access, so that's the problem. So here you can see a scenario where I'm not looking, I don't have some specific task that I want to do in mind when I come into the UI, but because we've surfaced this information in a connected way that allows me to pivot around the object or the resource or the technology, I can go in and easily troubleshoot the scenario and find the information that I'm looking for.
Sweet.
Okay, so last thing I want to show you is PowerShell Web Access. This is one, oh, I should note two things before I leave this. Number one, I'm demoing all of this from a Windows 8 client, right? So I have RSAT, the remote server admin tools, installed on the Windows client. The remote server admin tools batch up all of the server management tools and then provide them on the client machine. There is a beta of that available in conjunction with the Server 2012 beta. Again, we're really, our preferred or recommended configuration is that the GUI runs on the client. And so we've made that possible in this release by simultaneously shipping the RSAT along with the server.
First time ever?
Very, very exciting. And then the other thing is, I got a little applause from down here when I said the Windows Management Framework was available down level. You actually can bring in Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 machines into the UI, and you can get access to events and services across those machines. So this isn't only a Windows Server 2012 experience. We do provide some experience with the down-level servers.
Just to be clear, you get more benefits. There's some functionality that we'll do. You get more when you install the Windows Management Framework on those down-level machines.
Yeah, you had a question. Core? Yeah, you can run this against Server Core. That's actually our preferred configuration, and we'll show you some cool things in a second around that. All right, so one of my new favorite features in this release, and it's probably going to take me a little bit to log on here, is PowerShell Web Access. So whereas the Server Manager experience is a rich client experience, we know that you might be on the road and want to access things remotely. And you might not have your machine, you might just have a browser in front of you. And so what we've done is created the PowerShell Web Access. So this allows me, it's essentially, let me just log on before I... It is essentially a gateway machine. It allows me to connect to the gateway machine and then connect to any machine that I have in my environment that's running PowerShell. I can specify different connection settings, so if I actually have a different username and password to authenticate to the end machine versus the gateway, I can do that. I can specify different authentication types. But what you'll see when I click Sign In is that it's going to sign me in. It's going to take a second because for some reason my logon is a little slow today. But what you'll see is the same familiar experience that Jeffrey showed you earlier with the blue command window that we have for PowerShell. All right. All right, I'm already signed in. Oh, well, let's try that one more time.
Do you mention that we picked up nightly builds this weekend to build our demos?
All right, so this is gonna, I can't type my password.
I think this is where the audience is supposed to say.
Yeah, there we go. So here I have that same familiar PowerShell experience through a web browser. We support not only IE, but a variety of other browser experiences. And again, I have the same experience in here. Get process, I have tab completion. So here, get printer driver, I can go through. I have the same, if I type get process, that same experience where I can output things in table format, rich formatting, etc. So really provides an extensible way for you to access and manage while you're on the road, or maybe you don't have your IT Pro desktop environment.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Very cool stuff. Yeah, again, back to this theme of trying to simplify your life. Simplify things, reduce the number of steps, increase the ability to do things wherever you are. So we also know that IT pros both manage clients and servers and use clients and servers. Okay, and so this is why we have I'm going to talk about the local experience of the server. So the server in Windows Server 2012 shares the same Metro user experience as the client. Okay, we have modified the default experience, the things that show up in your tiles, etc., we crafted it for a server experience. And then Server Manager is the central experience for managing things. That's really how you're going to do it. When you log into a server and you've configured it to use the GUI, we'll bring up Server Manager, and then you can manage it. And you can use it to launch things. A number of people said, hey, where's my start menu? And the answer is, you'll see, Aaron will show you, a bunch of the tools that you used to go use the Start Manager to start. Now you can launch them from Server Manager itself. And the Server Manager experience is the same, whether it's local, running on a server, or remote. Okay? Now, here are your options for deploying Windows Server. Our preferred configuration now is Server Core. How many of you have tried Server Core in the past? How many of you succeeded with Server Core in the past? Okay, so a number of hands goes down. We know some of the issues that we had with Server Core. It was difficult to manage. It's why we invested heavily in the PowerShell commandlets. We got great coverage there. Second was there were missing features, missing roles. Some roles required full server. So more roles are available there. And SQL, the latest version of SQL, can install and run on Server Core. So big benefit there. And risk. It used to be that you'd start off with Server Core, and if, some product you needed required full server, you had to start over. Okay? And now you don't. Now you can go from full server down to Server Core, or from Server Core up to full server. And we made this investment because we found that whereas now we are confident that people could succeed with Server Core, and that's why we made it our preferred configuration recommendation, we found that as we did app compatibility testing, that there were a number of applications that could run fine in Server Core, but required a GUI for installation and configuration. And so what you can do is you can configure a server with full GUI, install the applications, configure them, and then remove the GUI to run the machine in Server Core mode. And if you ever need to, go ahead and add the GUI. So very nice flexibility. Now there is a midpoint. Midpoint we call the minimal server shell. The minimal server shell, you take the full server, you remove we remove IE and the Metro shell, the Explorer, and this gives you a lot of the benefits of Server Core in terms of a reduced patch footprint, while still enabling you to run GUIs. So you can still run Server Manager, you can still run MMC, you can still run GUIs, but you don't have a shell or IE.
So shall we show it to them?
Let's.
All right, so here I'm back within Server Manager. From within the All Servers view, I could just right-click on any machine that I want and create an RDP session to that machine. I can actually open PowerShell targeted to that machine. In the interest of my slow logon issue, I actually have an RDP session set up to a couple of these servers. So Server 3 is running the full server. So you can see Server Manager comes up by default. It has the Metro experience on it. But you can see we've done certain things to really make it optimized so that we think that you're going to stay within Server Manager. We pin Server Manager, PowerShell, and Explorer to the taskbar at the bottom. Within Server Manager, you can actually hit the Tools menu, and that directs you to all of the administrative tools that you have within your environment if you want to drop down and open up Print Management or Performance Monitor or whatnot. I thought while I have a captive audience, I would just show you a few things that it took me a little bit to learn the first time that I used the new experience. The first is I like to come and hover down in the right-hand corner here. I'll get a handy little bar up the right-hand side. If I click on Settings, that's actually where I go to shut down the computer. So I can click on Power. It can let me disconnect, shut down, restart. I don't want to do that at this point in time. If I go back into the right-hand corner, I can bring up the Start screen. Here again, if you get into this view, we've pinned the default things that we think that you're going to use to the taskbar. But if I want to find anything, I can just start to type. So if I want to type administrative tools, that's in the settings. You can see there are my administrative tools coming up. Handy little tip I like, if you just backspace in the apps, it'll actually give you a list of all of the apps that are installed on your machine. Lower left-hand corner takes me back to the Start menu, and then log off. If I click on the user profile icon in the top, I can lock the machine or log out. So things are pretty easy to find once you've played with it a couple of times. So let me go back to the desktop into Server Manager and show you just how easy it is to move from full server into that minimal server interface. So if I go into Manage and click Remove Roles and Features, it'll bring up our wizard that we use for deployment. Here, I get my little welcome screen. I click the server selection. I'm on the server, so that's the only option I have. Jeffrey talked about how we have a consistent experience between online and virtual machines. So here, I can actually deploy offline or remove roles offline from a virtual disk. Pretty sweet. And then here, I'm going to go through. It's not the roles I want to remove, it's the features. So in my feature list, I go down and find the user interfaces and infrastructure section. And if I expand that, you can see there's the graphical tools and the graphical shell. If I remove those, it tells me the dependencies I need to remove. Click Next and hit Remove. It's going to go through. It's going to remove the shell and IE, take me down to a server core machine, reboot, and I'm up and running again. So very easy to switch between those experiences. Let me show you one last thing before we wrap up, and that is, let me go to a minimal server experience machine. So here, I have a server running the minimal server interface. When you look at it, it looks pretty normal, right? I have Server Manager running. If I click on Tools, I can open Computer Manager. I can open up MMC, snap-ins, all of those things. But look, if I minimize this, you'll see I have no default shell, I have no IE, I just have a command window, right? So really provides this option for people who want to start moving towards server core, but don't want to take the full leap of not, in a pinch, being able to RDP in and get access to their GUI tools locally. So we really think that this has provided a set of options that will help people move towards that preferred deployment option we see as being server core and RSAT running on the client.
Yeah, and just to make that clear, yeah, you like that one? The reason why we were making it a preferred configuration is that with Server Core, you have a reduced footprint in terms of resources. So more resources are available to your application to provide user functions, a smaller security footprint, so it's more secure, and a smaller serviceability footprint. So concretely, we found that people who have been successful with Server Core are getting somewhere between 50 and 70% fewer critical patches. And I know how much you would like to avoid patches. So now, recapping, Windows Server 2012 is a great OS for lots of servers and the devices that connect them, whether they're physical, virtual, on-premises, or off-premises. This is how you should think. You're going to hear a lot about Windows Server coming up, right? And there's a lot of features. And as you view it, this is the thing to keep in focus. Why are they doing it? This is the vision that we're trying to achieve. Okay? In the area of management, in order to achieve that vision, we do standards-based management. We do standards-based management because we want to manage lots of heterogeneous devices. In order to get other people to participate in that, we have to be the best, the first best citizen in a standards-based world. So Windows machines, Linux machines can install server roles on a Windows box. Just crazy, wonderful stuff. So we can manage these things. We want to have robust automation to simplify things and have lights out management to drive up the number of servers per admin and increase the quality of your IT operations and to deal with this messy world where everything isn't perfect the way you want it to be. And we've got this new multi-machine management experience. I think you can see from what Aaron showed you, we have not walked away from the GUI. No, 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 my friends. We fully embrace the GUI. It's what's made Microsoft great, and we're taking it to the next level with our multi-machine management GUI in this release, where we have remote management. It's optimized for remote management. We've turned the management paths on by default to minimize your configuration steps. We have this rich client available as an RSAT tool that you can run on your clients. We've got this great ISE to simplify the task of learning PowerShell. And now you can access PowerShell from anywhere, any device, through our web browser. So we're pretty happy with this release. We think you're going to be very happy with this release. We'd like you to try it out and kick the tires and let us know. And thank you for your time.